Okay, today is May 8th, 2014. I'm Susan West, and I'm in Avon talking with Dallas Miller. Dallas, could you tell me where you were born?
I was born in Elizabeth City.
Okay. What year were you born?
9/11/1944.
9/11.
9/11.
Okay. Then did you live in Elizabeth City?
I lived there until 1948, and that's when my dad had retired from the Coast Guard, and we moved from Elizabeth City to Avon.
And was your dad originally from Avon?
Yes, my mom and dad both were.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Her maiden name was Farrow.
Farrow.
Yeah.
And she was from Avon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your dad's name was Dallas Miller.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were both born here in Avon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your dad was in the Coast Guard?
Yes. Yeah, he retired in January 31st, 1944.
Okay.
And then he went to work on the ferries. After we moved down here, he commercial fished.
Oh, he did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
He was a commercial fisherman. And then he went to work on the ferries up at Oregon Inlet and worked there until the bridge was completed in '64.
Okay.
And
was that a state-run ferry?
Yeah,
or?
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
it was
And then
state-run.
he transferred down to Hatteras and was captain on one of those ferries. And then he went to port captain, and then he retired from that. But on his days off, he fished.
Okay.
And then after he retired, my brother retired from the Coast Guard, and then they went to commercial fishing together.
Okay, your brother Johnny.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the only brother that you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just
So-
he and I.
So they, after they both retired, they teamed up together.
Yeah. He retired out of the Coast Guard in '73. My dad retired from the ferries in '72. And then they bought a long haul rig.
For fishing in the Sound,
Mhm.
Pamlico Sound.
And then Johnny bought another boat, Miss Teresa, from somebody, and drop knitted in the ocean in the winter. And until I retired, then Johnny and I went together.
Okay.
And we commercial fished, we drop knitted and long knitted in the Sound.
Okay. What did you retire from?
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yeah. Then after I made my fortune fishing,
Uh-huh.
I went back to work with Coast Guard as a civilian, and I worked with them for about 4 years up in Portsmouth. Really got tired of it, and moved back down here in '92.
Okay.
I think it's '92. We bought this house in '94. It was
Okay.
'94, and I went to work down at Coast Guard base. They had a position there for a civilian, as those new houses they were building.
Right.
I was the housing officer.
Okay.
And I worked there for 10 years.
So what did you have to do? Oversee the construction?
Yeah,
or?
no. Oversee the, people reporting in, make sure they had a place in their family to live.
Okay.
I had to make sure that when people moved out of them, they were just the way they were when they moved in. As far as they needed painting, they had to paint them. If the carpet was soiled, they cleaned it anyway. But if it was torn, they had to have it replaced. They, had to make sure it was in top-notch shape when they moved in. And I stayed there for 10 years, and I closed up, and then I retired from civil service in 2008.
Did you enlist in the Coast Guard right after school?
2 weeks after school, I was at Cape May Boot Camp,
Okay.
1962.
And
I retired in, I got out in '66 after my 4 years.
okay.
Went to college for 2 years, got a job, did not like the job, went back in the Coast Guard,
Okay.
and spent another 16 years. And I had 2 years reserve time, so I had a total of 22 years in the Coast Guard. and then 15 years with them as a civilian. So I had 37 years with the Coast Guard.
Wow. Wow, that's a long time.
Long time.
It is.
Yeah.
And were you stationed all over the country? Or?
I was stationed in New Jersey, Florida, Virginia, down at Buxton for about a year and a half, and I was in California.
Okay.
I retired out of California.
And how come you decided to go into the Coast Guard?
Actually, yeah, that was the only service I knew.
Oh, really?
When I graduated high school in 1962, you kind of had two choices. You stayed home and fished, or you went in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
My grandfather was retired Coast Guard. My father was retired Coast Guard. I had 3 or 4 uncles, all retired, and their children were in or retired. And my brother was retired. I was in charge of recruiting at one time, and I enlisted my nephew.
Okay.
So he was the 4th generation of the Coast Guard.
Wow. Isn't that
now,
something?
really, back then, it was only, I mean, we couldn't afford to go to college.
Uh-huh.
And so you just you stayed home and you commercial fished or went in the Coast Guard.
There probably weren't many other jobs around
No,
here.
it wasn't. None.
And I seem to remember somebody telling me in that period fishing was really poor in the Sound in the early 60s.
You know, I don't remember, but I can remember when I was in high school in the late 50s, early 60s. I used to go with my dad in the summer, and I can remember more times than not that, you know, you just didn't have that many fish.
Uh-huh.
There wasn't no boatloads of fish.
Right.
But you know, I guess they scraped a living out of it.
Well, when you caught fish, were there fish houses here in Avon?
Yeah. Right down where the harbor is, right down from where Tillman's is now, is George Gray's fish house.
Right.
Right there. That was the only fish house.
Okay.
And that's where we sold.
And do you know where that fish went to?
I think, no, let me take it back. There was another fish house there. Tillman moved in at that time. George sold to, I think it was Globe Fish Company. Now, I can't remember if it was Globe out of Hampton, I think, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Now Tillman, I think when he first moved there, it seemed like to me that he sold to Billy out of Elizabeth City.
Barcliff.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's
Quality Seafood.
Quality Seafood. I think that's who he started with. Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit about the fishing that you did in the Sound. What type of nets did you use?
We had a long haul net, and it was one net probably about 2,000 yards long.
Okay.
And you used 2 boats, one on each end of the net, and you pulled it for, well, depending on what set you were in. You know, some sets you pull longer. You pulled it for, say, an hour or 2 hours.
Okay.
You came together in a big circle, and then you had a third boat, but it was our net skiff, and that was for nothing, just putting the net in.
Okay.
So when you came together in this big circle, 3 guys got on the net skiff, and 1 got on the run boat, and they called it ring hauling.
Ring hauling?
Ring hauling, and that's when it was actually a circle, so it was a ring. And the one boat would tow that net skiff around as it towed it, you brought the net in until you come to the bunt.
Okay.
And the bunt was a deep part of the net, and you would purse it. And what that was doing was pulling the bottom together, so the fish couldn't get out. And you put one side of the net on one boat, one was on the net skiff, and you took dip nets and just bailed them into your boat.
And the boats, they weren't large boats.
No, we had one that was 27.5 feet. That was the one I ran. And then the cabin boat were my brother and the other two guys. I think she was 32 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the net skiff was probably 26 feet. Just an open boat to keep the net in. That's all that was.
Were there many fishermen here in Avon at that time?
When I was doing it, was three rigs here. One was, we were just talking about him, Collins.
Collins Gray.
Collins and Belton. And the other one was Sumner Scarborough.
Okay.
You know, Kevin.
Right, Kevin's dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he had one, and then Johnny had one. That was the three here.
So, how was it working with family? Did you and your dad and your brother get along well?
Me and my dad got along great.
You did?
Oh, yeah. We couldn't have got along any better. My brother and I, you know, he was on one boat and I was on the other, and that was a good thing. Because we just could not get along. You know, we couldn't. And, you know, we were always arguing with each other and complaining, but we'd come home, take our shower, get dressed, eat our supper. We'd meet at my dad's house that night, you know. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Tell me a little bit more about your mother and her family.
Mom's family was from here. Her father, I don't remember because he died before I was born.
Okay.
But he was a commercial fisherman.
He was.
And in fact, he was fishing. He actually had pneumonia, and he went fishing.
Oh my goodness.
And came in and got really sick from what I remember them telling me. And sometime later passed away because of that, you know. Yeah, he had pneumonia. But the fishing they did, it was, they didn't have no long nets like that. They had just short nets, probably maybe 30 yards, and they used to, it was like our set nets, like our flounder nets, only they were shorter, and they wouldn't anchor them, they put stakes down, and they would tie them to them stakes and let the net swing from the stakes. And I think that's what he was doing, you know, when he had pneumonia, or caught pneumonia, and passed away a short time after that. And then her, now my mother lived up at Little Kinnakeet. She was the last
north
one.
Of here.
She was the last one on Avon that lived up there, that was still alive. You know, she passed away about in February of last year.
Okay.
And but her mother and grandmother, who I remember both of them very well, were up there, and they moved down here. And I'm only guessing at this. Her sister moved here in 1926. Mom came down here in about 1919. Because she said she was 6 years old when she moved from Little Kinnakeet to Avon.
Okay, so why did folks move from?
I don't know. Unless there was only just a few families up there anyway. And I don't think they had a store up there. There was no store. The school, my aunt taught in the school, and it seems like to me, my mom told me that school was actually in the church, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So it was about 1919 when she moved down here. The house they lived in at Little Kinnakeet is still standing here in Avon Village.
It is. Fantastic.
I mean, it's just about to fall down, but it's still there. It's up on North End Road where my mom used to live. It's behind that behind her house. But they took that house apart.
I was just going to ask, how did they move the house?
They took it apart in sections, put it on sailboats, and sailed it down to Avon, to the creek that comes up at North End.
Wow.
I don't know how they got it from there, if it was horse and cart or what, to where it was, which is only probably 500 yards. And then put it together. And
Amazing.
built a new kitchen on it, because the kitchen was separate from the house.
Right. A lot of those old houses had the kitchen separate like
that.
And
they built a kitchen on it. And my great-grandmother and grandmother lived with my parents. They moved down here with them, and we all lived together. After they got a little age, because my dad built a house down in Avon, and my grandmother and great-grandmother and great-uncle lived in that old house.
Okay.
And then when they got where they couldn't take care of themselves, they all moved in with us.
Wow, you must have had a full house then.
My great-grandmother, actually,
lots of supervision there.
She died in 1951.
Okay.
And I was 6 years old. But she died before they moved in.
Okay.
But my great-uncle and my grandmother moved in with my parents and stayed with them until they both passed. And then my dad built another house up on North End Road, which is still up there today. Yeah.
Okay. Did he build the houses, or did he have them built?
No, he had it built. Yeah. The first one, he and another guy built it together. The second one, there was a couple of contractors out of Wanchese that built it for him.
Okay. So, in that period, when you were growing up in a house full of grown-ups and people to keep an eye on you, do you remember what kind of food you ate? Did you eat a lot of fish?
Oh yeah. We was always eating fish, and my dad always had a garden, so it was either something out of his garden or fish. And I can remember growing up when they still had the ferries up in Oregon Inlet. About once a month, they would go to Elizabeth City at the Coast Guard base, and the Coast Guard base at that time had a commissary, and they would load the car up, the trunk up with groceries from the commissary.
Okay.
And so we never had much money, but I never remember being hungry.
Are there any of those food items that you still eat and still enjoy?
Oh, the fish. Yeah, fish, oysters, clams. Yeah, anything out of the water I enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why, when you were in the Coast Guard, do you enjoy living in other places?
Yeah, once I got there, I hated moving.
I
hated moving. We left Portsmouth, and I was transferred to California. And my wife and daughter were thrilled. I was so mad, because I only had 3 years left, and I was going to retire. But once we got there, it was the best duty I ever had. It was great. We'd go to the desert on weekends, or you could go up in the mountains skiing.
Okay.
And it was just great. We lived in Huntington Beach, which was just south of Long Beach. I was stationed in Long Beach.
Did you always have it in your mind that when you retired, you would come back?
Yes. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. That was my big plan.
It was?
Yeah.
You always knew that?
Was come back home and fish. But the fishing didn't work out, so I went civil service.
your wife Lois, she's
Mhm.
from Avon also, right?
Well, no, not actually. She was born at Manio. Her
Okay.
parents were living here when she was born. And her dad started working for the shipyard in Norfolk. So she grew up in actually Portsmouth. Uh, she went to school in Portsmouth up until the 8th grade in Craddock
Okay.
section. And up until the 8th grade when her mom died.
Okay.
And then she moved to Woodbridge, actually, right outside of Alexandria, Virginia. So she never lived here.
Oh, how did you two meet?
Well, they would come home, you know, I knew Collins, and
Uh-huh.
they would come home on vacation,
Okay.
and
Her sister and
Rebecca and her husband
They would-
Collins. And when they would come home on vacation, of course, she came with them.
uh-huh.
And, you know, we had known each other for ever since I can remember.
Uh-huh.
But when they would come home on weekends, and we were both, I guess, young teenagers, we would have dates.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's when you would just follow her,
Right.
walk around behind her, you know. And I'd go home, and my mom would say, "Where you been?" I said, "I had a date with Lois." Never touched her, you know, never talked to her, but followed her. But then,
It's great.
but then after I went into service, we kind of, you know, got separated, and I was stationed in West Palm Beach, and I came home. It was about a year before I ever came back home. I came back home on vacation or on leave, and she happened to be here, and I was driving down the road and I saw her and I stopped and picked her up, and so made a date with her, and
Okay. A
then
real
it was
date.
kind of a long distance relationship then, and then I got sent on a ship in Norfolk, and the ship went up to Baltimore for repairs for 3 months, and every weekend I'd go down and visit her, you know, and stay with Beck and
Uh-huh.
Collins. You know. Then that's when we were married, actually,
And what year did you get married?
1965
Okay.
in March.
Okay. Growing up here, school, you
Mhm.
went to school in Buxton.
Well, I started school here in Avon.
Well, where was that?
You know where the Sands of Time campground is?
Yeah, on the North End Road?
Yeah, it was right
Uh-huh.
there.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I think I went to the 6th grade and started in the 7th grade down to Buxton. I think that's when it was.
Was that when they consolidated?
Yes, when they
And they
consolidated.
got rid of the school?
Yes.
Okay.
It only had 2 rooms. The first room had the 1st through the 4th grade. The second one had the 5th through the 8th.
Okay.
Then the 9th grade you went to Buxton, down where the electric plant is now.
Okay.
And that were on the other side of Anglers Club.
Okay.
Yeah. In the 9th grade you went there. But
Did they have a 10th and 11th grade there?
yeah, they
Okay.
had that was the high
Okay.
school. After you went to the 8th grade up here, then you went 9th through 12th
Okay.
down to Buxton. My brother graduated out of Buxton, that one.
Okay. So, do you remember how many teachers were there at that
Yeah.
school?
2.
2. Okay. Do you remember
One-
them?
One was for the 1st through the 4th grade, and when I was there, her name was Miss Parks.
Okay.
And then the 5th through the 8th grade, I can't remember his name, but he was also the principal.
Oh.
You know?
Okay.
So that was the only 2. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, there was just not
Didn't
many.
remember-
You had one row of desk was the 1st grade, the 2nd row was the 2nd grade, 3rd row was 4th grade, 3rd grade.
Do you have any idea how many kids, how many students were there?
Well, in my class, I could probably name all of them. I was the only boy.
Oh, really?
There was probably, I'm guessing, 6 or 8 in my class.
When it was time to go to Buxton to go to school,
I was scared to death.
You were?
Yes.
I was going to ask if that was something that made you nervous,
yes.
like you were...
Yeah, I, being used to this school, where you had, one schoolroom, and you had the auditorium and the other schoolroom, and then going down to this one, it was only, you walked in, you walked to the left, there's some classrooms, and you turned and walked down the hall to the right, and there's classrooms. That's all they were, besides the auditorium and cafeteria. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to learn my way around here. But yeah, it was comical. Yeah, scared to death. Mr. Mercer was my first teacher down there in the 7th grade. Yeah.
Did you eventually like it?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Because I just met, there's so many more people you met, and started hanging around with mostly people from Hatteras, really. For some reason I took up with, I liked all of those people. Yeah. In fact, when they had in '62, when the inlet cut through right outside of Buxton, I was driving the school bus that year. I was a senior.
You were driving the school bus?
Yeah, seniors drove school buses.
Okay.
And I made $42 a month driving it. And some people, they converted the Little Kinnakeet Coast Guard Station into a school. So some people went there to the school, and then others stayed with friends or family they had in Buxton or Hatteras or Frisco. And I stayed in Hatteras with a friend of mine. In fact, he just passed away, Charles Brown.
Okay.
It was Charles Brown's mom and dad.
Okay.
Because his mother was a teacher up there, Hilda Brown.
Well, other than the road damage, do you remember that storm, that Ash Wednesday storm?
Oh, yeah, very well.
Was it horrible?
I laughed. I don't remember it being bad. In fact, I took the bus. I was up on North End Road living with my dad and mom, and I picked up all the kids that morning. Was on my way out to the main road to head for school, and someone stopped me at the corner of where you come out of the village. Asked me where I was going. I said, I'm going to school like I do every day. And they says, no, you can't get south of Big Kinnakeet Station. I said, what are you talking about?
Oh, my goodness.
I said, well, it's sand. And then on the other side of the sand is an inlet. I said, oh, yeah, right. And I laughed. I didn't believe them. I laughed and went down. And since they built Kinnakeet Shores, I can't remember where Big Kinnakeet Station was now. But anyway, it was a little further south. I got on the other side, and there's nothing but sand.
Wow.
So I took everybody, and I went back. I called the principal, Byram Jerome Salter was the principal. And I said, Mr. Salter, this is Dallas. I said, I can't get to school. He says, why not? I said, there's an inlet cut through. Well, he didn't believe me. He says, I'll call you back. I said, okay. And so evidently he left, went up and saw there was an inlet there, and he calls me and he says, oh, there are an inlet. I says, yeah. So then they, like I say, they opened up the school at Little Kinnakeet, and then they had, then people stayed with people, Buxton, Frisco, and Hatteras, and I stayed with Charles and Hatteras. And they ran ferries. My dad ran one of them from Hatteras Inlet to Avon Harbor. And
oh, really?
On Friday, after school, I would go down to Hatteras and catch the ferry and ride it and stay home for the weekend. And then Sunday night, I'd go back on the ferry and stay the week down there.
Okay. And how long was that inlet there? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I know they put the temporary bridge across there, and sometimes if the sea was rough and the tide was high, you would have to wait on one side of the bridge until the water washed across it, and then go across.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah.
But I can't remember how long it was before they filled it in.
Uh-huh.
You know, I can't remember.
Well, did you play any sports in school?
The only sports we had at school was basketball.
That was it?
That was it.
No baseball?
No baseball. No nothing.
Really?
Yeah. And in basketball, we were not allowed to be in a conference because we had to take ferries. And the basketball court was not large enough. I think it wasn't a regulation-sized basketball court. I think that's what it was. And between the basketball court and the side of the building, you didn't have any room. You had one row of chairs around it. Because the basketball court was the auditorium at that time, too.
Okay.
And so the only teams that we ever played was we played the Coast Guard and played the Navy. And that was about it.
Okay.
You know?
That's interesting. I didn't realize that it was only basketball.
Yeah. Now, the villages, you know, most of them had baseball teams.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. I played on baseball here at Avon, and we would play the Navy and the Coast Guard mostly. You know, sometimes other villages, and sometimes we'd play among ourselves. But I can remember playing where when you turn at the stoplight to go into Avon, on the left-hand side, the little fish market that's there, there used to be a ball field.
Oh, it was?
Or we had it as our ball field. Had a backstop.
Okay.
We kept it cut. And but I can remember playing there. And I can remember playing, and my dad playing there at the same time. And I thought, you know, I don't know how he's playing. He's 40-some years old. Yeah.
That's great. Were there any particular classes in school that you preferred over others?
No, not really. I really didn't like school.
You didn't?
I didn't. No, I did not like studying. I had a teacher one time told me, Miss Catherine Midget, Anderson Midget's wife.
Okay.
She was my homeroom teacher in 12th grade. And for some reason, this really, really good friend of mine, I.G. Scarborough, he and I were best friends. But we got into a lot of mischief. And we were thrown out of class for something. And we had to go to study hall. And it was Miss Catherine's study hall. And I remember her telling me, she said, you know, you get decent grades. If you would take a book home and study it, you would really get great grades, you know. And I says, I just wanted to get by and get out of here. You know?
Did you have favorite teachers?
She was my favorite.
She was?
Yeah.
Even though she said that to you?
Yeah. And I was scared to death of her.
Really?
At that time, you know, because she had a bad temper, and you knew you could not mess up in her class. But when I look back after school was over, and I look back, she was the best teacher I had. You know, I really enjoyed her. Not at the time, I didn't. But yeah, I look back, and she had a big influence on me.
Lois mentioned to me that something about the mascot for the school was the Bulldogs?
Oh, that was we were the Blue Devils. when I went through.
You were the Blue Devils.
Yeah, now
okay.
they're now the Hurricanes.
Right.
I guess it was to the old school down at the where the electric
Light
company
Plant
was down
Road.
that way. I was going through some things that my mom had packed away up in the attic, and I came across this little banner, maybe 6 or 8 inches, and it had Cape Hatteras Bulldogs, 1953. That was the year my brother graduated.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they were called the Bulldogs then.
Interesting.
And it was blue and white. The banner was. So I don't know if that was the school colors. Of course, ours were blue and white.
Okay.
But
But
we
you were
were
the Blue Devils.
Blue Devils, yeah.
Okay.
I still got my school coat.
Oh, you do?
I didn't know it. My mom had it in the attic. Got my name on it. Got, CHHS Blue Devils. With this blue devil in the middle of it.
When you were growing up, was there a lot of rivalry between the villages on the island?
You know,
Was it
was-
competitive spirit at times or more cooperative?
well, it was, you know, like I said, I got along great with everybody from Hatteras. I don't know why. But it seemed like that Avon and Rodanthe did not like each other. Now, I mean, I got along great with them, but the generation before me, I know I had a couple of cousins, and they were always getting in fights. And they were always getting in fights with people from Rodanthe. So, you know, but no, I don't recall it being competitive between the villages when I was growing up, you know, or when I was in high school. I don't recall it. The only thing that was competitive that I can recall was when the Navy was here at the Navy base, because we thought they were all after our girls.
Oh, okay. They probably
So
were.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, yeah. We didn't, so we did not care for the Navy.
Sure, yeah. Did you have television here when you were growing up?
Yeah, we had it, and but you had to have an outside antenna.
Okay.
And you only got like 2 stations or 3 stations that I recall. And to get one station out of Norfolk, your antenna had to point one way. To get the station out of Washington, Little Washington, it had to point another way. To change the station, you had to go outside and turn your antenna.
Okay.
And open a window and say, okay, a little bit more, a little bit, okay, that's good right there. You know, and then they finally got little remotes, and you would turn that, and it would turn your antenna for you.
Oh, okay.
You know. We never had one. I remember my aunt had one. You know, we just had the old pump pipe where we had a pipe wrench on it.
Okay.
And when you wanted to turn it, you turned it with that pipe wrench until Dad says, that's good.
So, when you were in high school, where did you hang out? Were there...
most of the time, Sonny's Restaurant in Hatteras. Okay, at that time it was Fraser Peel's restaurant.
Okay.
In the back of that was a little a section that had booths back there, and that's where most of the teenagers would hang out.
Okay.
Before that, it was when I was growing up. It was in Avon. The shop that Lois has now, it was there. Andrew Meekins built that store, and when we just called it Andrew's Place.
Okay.
And it had a jukebox, 3 wooden booths, had a booth with a little table between them, had 3 of them, had a jukebox in the corner, and had a shuffleboard, and a little open place in the middle for dancing, and a counter. And we used to always hang out there.
And
There.
Did they sell sodas
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Beer too?
No.
No.
It was dry.
Okay.
Yeah. No, just just Pepsis, Cokes, stuff like that. A bar of candy, bag of peanuts. That's about it. That, and then right down the street was Pritchard's, and Pritchard's was a pool hall.
Okay.
Had one pool table,
Okay.
and I used to. I can recall going in there when I first went in there. You had to have a note from your parents saying it was okay for you to shoot pool.
Okay.
Because some of the religions did not want you shooting pool. And I remember I had to take a note in there from my mom. So it was okay for me to shoot pool. And it was, if you played a game of 8-ball, it was a nickel.
Okay.
If you played a game of rotation, it was a dime.
Okay.
And that's all we played back then. Most of the time was just those two games. You know?
So those were the two hot spots.
Yeah, that's where
And when you got a little older for dating girls and
then
all.
it was at Hatteras.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about, was there a movie theater on the island back
Yeah,
then?
there was one at Hatteras.
Okay.
And we would go to that. It's right across from where the library is.
Okay.
It's
A.S. Austin.
Austin, right next to Austin's used to be a store.
Right.
Right
That building is
right next
still
to
there.
that.
Okay.
Was the movie theater.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Did
of
you
course,
have a car?
We're before that, and I mean I remember going there, but it was mostly older than I. It was Tandy's place, which is the quarterdeck restaurant now.
Okay.
That was the hot spot. That was the place when they finally got liquor back, that you went and you bought your beer, and you just went down there on Saturday nights to watch people fight. It was great.
Okay. Did they have music there?
Yeah, had a jukebox.
Okay. Talking about entertainment here in Avon, and we talked a little bit about the fish houses. When you were growing up, were there other stores or other businesses in Avon?
Yeah, the small ones like where Lois's shop is. Okay, that was Amber's place. Up on North End Road, you had one. The building is still there. Mr. Fields. That was your general store.
Okay.
You came on down the road, and you had Anders' place, where our shop is. Pritchard's little pool hall. You had one on Methodist Church Road with George Oliver's. Further on down, you had right at the corner of Harbor Road and Williams Road. On the left-hand side was Gib Gray's store, and they were all general stores.
Did they carry the same merchandise? Or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why were there so many?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there were more than that, but I don't remember them. I don't remember. That's the ones I remember. And they used to get their foodstuffs from Mr. Charlie Williams. He had 2 trucks, and they drove to Norfolk once or twice a week. And then they would come back and deliver the foods to all the stores.
Okay.
And then the same thing was in Buxton.
Okay.
They had general stores there, just like in Avon.
Okay. I've often wondered, I've always heard in the past there were so many small stores.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious as to why.
Gosh, yeah, I don't know. And none had much in them. A lot of people, they had their gardens. They would grow what they wanted, or they got it out of the water, the sand. And
how about, did you eat much beef or pork, chickens?
I'm sure we did, because when I was coming up, we had freezers, refrigerators. I'm sure. I know we had chicken because my dad always had chickens.
Okay.
And you know, they kill fresh chickens, but and ducks. You know, we always had ducks, ducks and geese, and something out of the water. But yeah, we had meats. Probably not a lot of them, but you know, I don't recall. I'm sure we did.
Was there a hotel or were there boarding houses?
There was a hotel. It's now apartments.
Okay.
As you going into Avon, when you turn to go on Harbor Road, go in Avon Village.
Okay.
When you come to the intersection on the left-hand side.
Right.
And that was Mr. Charlie Williams's.
Okay.
He had that built. And then his son Charles Williams, I guess he was a junior, he ran it.
Okay.
And then I think he finally was turned over to him.
Who stayed there? Did you, when you were a kid, did you see, were there tourists?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I do not remember who stayed there.
Yeah.
I can remember you hardly ever saw any cars there.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I guess there was tourists that came. I don't recall. And I just don't remember who stayed there.
If you got hurt when you were a kid, where would your mom or dad take you for medical care?
The closest place was at Buxton, where the Pheasant Center is now.
Okay.
There's an infirmary over there. And
was that county run or state run?
I don't recall. I don't know. Do you know Whalen, Jeanette? Okay, Whalen's mom was a nurse there, Juanita.
Okay.
Yeah. I can remember her working there. But yeah, that's where we would go. And I remember my dad took me there one time. I stuck a piece of wire in my eye. I was throwing a coat hanger in the air and I was watching it come down. And it stuck in my eye. And he took me down, and the doctor's name was Hornstein.
Hornstein.
Yeah. Okay. And my dad said he went right in the little room, operating room, with him, and watched him. And he took and put my eye down like that and cut under it. He said he popped my eyeball and laid it right on my cheek, and got that piece of wire out and put her back and patched her up. Never could see good out of it after that.
No wonder. Jeez. Ow. Oh. Tell me a little bit, going back to the stores and fun places in Avon, Andrew's Place. Now, when did that become more of a general store?
Lois's grandfather bought it from Andrew in 1953.
Okay.
And turned it into he had a grocery store on Scarborough Road, which is right behind that.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a grocery store there. And they bought this one in 1953, and her grandfather ran it till he retired, and then his son, Erskine Scarborough, took it over, and he ran it until we bought it in 1992. We bought it.
Okay. And that was when you were moving back, building.
Yeah, we moved back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, we would come down on weekends until we bought this house.
Okay.
And we bought this one in '94.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you bought the store. Did it require a lot of work to rehab it?
Actually, we did not do anything to it except clean it up.
Really?
And then some years later, we had the siding replaced.
Okay.
You know, and we put our siding on it, had it reshingled and everything. The only thing I did inside was repaint it. Cleaned it up and repainted it. And we just wanted to keep it the old general store look.
Right.
Yeah. And the only thing we did after that was we replaced on the outside. We replaced that and, had it repainted and reshingled. And now we have it for sale.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've had it for 22 years, and
oh my goodness.
we've at our age we just want it takes a lot, during the summer, and when you today just before you got here, I hadn't been home 15 minutes. I've been up in the workshop.
Oh.
I make little things that goes in there. So yeah.
What kind of things do you make?
Little shelves and stands and different little wooden
Nice.
knick-knack stuff,
Nice.
One of our best sellers is like a $3. It's called a recipe holder, but it's cut out of wood. It's shaped like a duck. It's got a body and then a clothespin and then a head. And it's all glued together, and then you work that clothespin and
right.
It holds true. Let me show you something. Now I don't stain them anymore. I paint them all different colors. But it's little recipe holders.
That's adorable.
Note holders.
Yeah. So have you always been a woodworker?
No, I just kind of picked it up, and
that's cute as anything.
I'm
Dallas.
not really that good, but
I think you're very
and,
good.
I'll tell you what
adorable.
else I make a lot of is those whirligigs.
Oh yes.
I make the birds.
Okay.
Seagulls and ducks.
Okay.
Mostly those are the ones I make. And birdhouses. I love to make birdhouses. And I make them like a fish house, put like crab barrels and fish boxes on
cute.
them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has a
Hatteras
feel
exactly.
to it.
Yeah. They sell real well. Last 3 years I've made I think it's 112 of those.
Oh, jeez. Do you ever have to man the store, the shop?
I used to when we first opened, and for a few years. In fact, I did. I would help her in there, but anymore I don't. She handles it all herself because we've cut back so much. She's only open from Wednesday through Saturday now. So
that's a plenty.
Yeah. So if you know of anybody looking for a good old building,
it is adorable.
Fantastic price.
It is adorable. I've always loved that building. Talking about building, when you were a kid, did you ever imagine that Hatteras Island would grow?
This is where we used to come to hunt.
Oh, you did?
Down here, where I'm living, yeah.
Okay.
It used to be called the Round Hole.
The Round Hole?
Yeah, in Askins Creek. But we would walk, and we would come down, and this is where we used to do our duck hunting.
Interesting.
And then, back then we'd shoot our pheasants here. We were supposed to. But, we did a lot of hunting down here. There was nothing. And I can remember when I left here in 1962, I think that last house going out of Avon on the left, and it's got 1 written on it. I think that's the first house that was ever built there. Okay. And everybody made fun of him. And but I can recall people talking that when I left here in 62, the highest priced oceanfront lot was $500.
Oh my goodness.
If we'd only had the money to bought a half a dozen of them. But $500 was a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, back then, $500.
But I would never thought, yes. The only thing when I left here, the only thing when you came out of Avon to the main road, Charles's store was on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And right across was the Avon Motel. It had 4 rooms.
4 rooms.
And that was it. There was nothing else.
That was it.
That was it. There was nothing
in either direction. I mean, if you had to.
There's nothing till you reach Buxton. If you went north, there's nothing till you reach Salvo.
Oh. So, no cottages, no stores out here.
Nothing.
It's kind of hard to believe.
I know it. Yeah.
It really is.
It's really changed.
Do you think the changes have been good or bad? No.
I wish it was like it was in the 50s.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Except the only thing was taking that ferry, getting in line, waiting for that ferry. Across the Oregon Inlet. Of course, we have to do that sometimes now.
Yeah, exactly. We never can tell now.
No, I just I just enjoy the way it was, and like I said, all this back here, you could go hunting anytime you want. And now, I got all these stuff for hunting, these guns and stuff, and I can't use them. They're nowhere to hunt.
Right.
And, unless you go out on the reef. If you got a hunting blind or a hunting box out on the reef.
Right.
But you can't take your gun and walk down to the shore, and because you got these $1 million homes on the shoreside.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really kind of incredible in the time that I've lived here how much it's changed.
It has. It has. It's really, really changed. I remember my brother telling me many years ago, many years ago, my great uncle, the one that lived with us, my brother told me that he and my great uncle, and then after my brother left, it was me and my great uncle, used to go down with a little cane pole with a little line with a little cork bobber on it and catch fish in the creek. Didn't eat them, we just threw them away. But he told me, he says, that my great uncle told him one time, he says, John, he said, you won't believe it. He says, but I'm going to tell you right now, one day, this is going to be a deep harbor in here. They dredged it since then. He said, and you're going to see houses all around here. And Johnny said he just kind of laughed it off, And because he was probably a teenager back then. And look at it.
Yeah, that came true.
All came to pass, yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of astonishing. Did you ever think you would have a Mexican restaurant and a Chinese restaurant?
I didn't even know what a Mexican or Chinese was. Even though I when I was in the Coast Guard, I was on a couple of ships, and I was fortunate enough to make some really, really good cruises on those ships. I've been all over Europe. I've been to France, Germany, England, Spain, Ireland, France, Germany, Canada, Newfoundland, Argentina, Quebec, and we spent 7 days in each one of those ports,
So you've really seen the world.
Yeah. I was in North Africa, and there's places that I would have never got to see. The different cultures, it's amazing. Yeah.
Quite an opportunity, really.
I always heard about the movie. I'm sure you saw the movie Casablanca. We went to Casablanca. Filthiest place I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's
you could smell it before you got to it.
That's disappointing.
And
that's disappointing.
In fact, our commanding officer called his commanding officer out of New York and requested we not go there.
Wow.
And they said, no, you're going. So we went. But it was only one section of the city. That
Of
was
all
like
those
that.
places you've seen, though, wasn't any?
Dublin.
Weren't they tempting? Didn't you see some and say, "Oh, I think I'd rather live here than Avon"?
No.
No.
No. No. I really enjoyed it. I went to Ireland twice.
Okay.
I went to Cork one time. I went to Dublin one time. I really enjoyed going there. People were really friendly.
Okay.
You know, and they really go out of their way to be nice to you. On the other hand, we were about 50 miles outside of Paris. I would never go back there.
Really?
Oh, it was, now, you know, I'm talking about, this has been many years ago. This was in the late 70s.
Okay.
And, but they wouldn't, a taxi wouldn't even stop for you.
Oh,
And,
my goodness.
Yeah, and if they spoke English, you would never know it because they wouldn't speak English too. It was always French.
Uh-huh.
You know, and they were really unfriendly.
So
really
they
unfriendly.
weren't very accommodating.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it may have changed since then, but yeah.
But
And
none
Germany
of those
was
places
Germany was friendly.
you didn't want to move to any of those places.
No.
You wanted to eventually come home.
Would come home. In fact, I was on that same ship one time, and we was at night. We were coming from. We'd been to Guantanamo, Cuba, and we were passing off Hatteras, or off Avon actually. And it was late at night, and the captain piped me up to the bridge, and or he called down and he says, "Hey, Chief," he said, "I want you to come on up to the bridge a minute." I said, "Well, yes, sir." So the captain, you know, and we got along real good, so I didn't know if I'd done anything wrong. So I went up to the bridge, and he said, "I got Jerry," which was our quartermaster, to pull us in a little bit closer than normal. He said, "I want you to look." I says, "Yeah, I see some lights in there." He says, "Do you know what that is?" I says, "No, sir, I sure don't." He said, "That's Avon." I said, "Are you kidding?" Yeah. So he had pulled in close enough coming off here where we could see the street lights.
Isn't
Yeah,
that great?
that was great. Yeah.
Well, it is a wonderful place. It really is,
Yeah.
even with all the changes.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share? I have this.
No, I think you've got it all out of me.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time today, Dallas.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Sure. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.